Good morning, everybody. It's Peter here from AJS, also representing G&A Warburtons in New Zealand. And it gives me great pleasure to once again bring you into a jeweller's workshop somewhere in Australasia. And this week we're heading over the ditch to sunny, maybe not so sunny Auckland, but the definitely sunny Maca Bernal. Hi, Maca. Welcome back.
Thank you, Peter. How are you today?
Excellent. Great to have you on board. And how are you?
I'm very happy to be here. Of course, it is not sunny. It is rainy, windy, very gusty in Auckland. So please forgive me if my door squeals. Other than that, we're here. We're happy to be here.
It's great to have you back on board, Maca. In our last session, we had a bit of an introduction to using resin to put a bit of sparkle into our jewellery.
That's right.
And we're going to continue along that track today. Would you? So the title of our presentation is Making a 7-Pointed Matariki Star Brooch. Now, would you like to explain about the Matariki for us?
As most of you will know or maybe guess, I'm not a Kiwi. I am an adopted Kiwi. I am a citizen of New Zealand, but I am Chilean, Latin American. I've been living here for 11 years, and in my culture, there's many, many celebrations that have to do with calendars and all of our wonderful indigenous cultures, of which there are many, many in all of South America. I, as an art student, would follow lots of them, given my creativity outlets and, trying to sort of be aligned with my culture. And when I came to New Zealand, I realized there wasn't that many that I could sort of follow, but one of my favorites, and probably the favorite of everyone this year, is Matariki. So Matariki is, and please forgive me, I don't pretend to know a lot about it, but I do want to celebrate it as a New Zealander, or as a Kiwi, adopted Kiwi with a passport. I do want to celebrate it this year. I want to commemorate it, and I thought, what better thing to do than offer you guys to show you how to make this fabulous 7-pointed resin star. 7 points because there are 7 stars, 7 Matariki sisters, which we are going to bring together today.
Okay, beautiful.
This one here.
And you're wearing one already?
I am.
Yeah.
This is the one I made for myself a couple of years ago, and I want to wear every Matariki to contemplate and to to resonate a little bit with what Matariki means to the Māori culture. And it, basically, in a nutshell, and I don't pretend to know everything about it, but in a nutshell, it signifies new beginnings. So if anything that we can do is contemplate and think about ways to improve ourselves, ways to be a better you through wearing your star that guides you, that reflects all these feelings with your family, with your whānau, with your friends, and for me, with my professional artistic practice, which is what brings us here.
Excellent. Thank you for that explanation, Maca. So it actually, Matariki is a sort of a Maori New Year, is that right?
Exactly, something in those lines. Now, for the first time this year in New Zealand, it's become a public holiday, which is quite phenomenal because it will allow all of us to celebrate that coming of the new time with our friends and family, to have a little rest and to think and ponder on what the new you is going to look like.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's tremendous recognition that it's become a public holiday then.
Yeah.
When is that happening?
It's Friday the 14th. So today is today's Tuesday the 4th. Sorry.
It is, yeah.
Today is the 4th of July for all the Americans. Well, there you go. Celebrations galore.
Yes. Every country has their own. Okay.
I want to show you a little bit up close what I've done with this brooch. I am currently working on the back in bronze, which is a mechanism that will hold the star in place.
Okay. Does that just clip in, does it?
It did, yeah. So this is just a prototype. I did work and rework this piece in many different ways. I still haven't sort of developed it as much as it would need to, but yeah, this is the star that we are working on today. As you see, it's 7 different points. It's composed of 7 of these.
Okay.
All resined together that are made in this mold.
Oh, that's handy.
So after you've got your star, you can turn it into a brooch, which is what I'm going to show you guys how to do today with these pre-made components. Or you could go quite crazy on me and make something very intricate and very technical to, you know, pin it down and wear it, or maybe a reversible. Whatever you guys want to actually make with it would be very cool. This one's in the way of a pendant. So you could just wear it, drill a hole on it. I don't know if you can see that.
I don't think you'd be allowed on an aeroplane wearing that, though.
It's like a whip.
Yeah.
It's only plastic, remember, plastic fantastic.
Yeah. It is so light, isn't it?
So I'm not going to kill any pilots with this, that's for sure. It could be an earring. I mean, it's a big earring, but I dig it.
Well, you'd end up with blood coming out of your cheek.
So what?
Yeah. All part of the effect. Okay.
Jewelry has to be challenging, Peter. If it's not challenging, I don't want it.
Right. Okay. Got your Band-Aids handy?
Yes.
Rightio. So where do we start then, Maca?
Okay, so the first thing that I want to show you guys is that this is a custom-made mold I've made myself. It only consists of 7 of these shapes. It is the most basic mold to make. 7 of these, I made the originals in wax, and then I made 7 of them, and I put them in a silicone mold, which was very easy to make. That could be another chapter of our demos.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great tool for you to have, that's for sure.
It's a really good tool for everyone to have, not only if you're working in jewelry, if you're working in a whole lot of different media to make your own silicone molds, yeah.
Right, so what do we got there? Some silicone spray.
Mm-hmm. Just because you want your molds to be lubricated, you don't want them to be rough. This mold I've just washed. If you wash your molds with water, water is resin's worst friend. So it's its enemy. So what we're going to do is always dry it up as best you can. I use compressed air to dry all my molds.
Okay.
Water. I had already washed and dried this. So make sure, if you don't have compressed air or anything like that, just make sure that you are going to dry it up as much as possible, because any bits of humidity stuck in the little corners of your mold will make the resin erupt.
Erupt.
Just gently erupt. So a little bit of silicone, and I always say to people, this is your distance. So an arm of distance, and that's all that you need. A very small spray. I don't know if you guys heard that.
Yeah, we saw it. Yeah.
All that it needs. A very, very light layer of silicone spray, nothing else. Too much silicone throws away the percentage at 50-50, or it just leaves oily streaks on your wood. Not ideal. So mold right in front of us. And just like the last time, if anyone remembers, I am going to put gloves on. Very important. So today I'm working with the same type of resin that I worked with the last time, which is a very fast curing white-based resin, right? So it's not clear, it's not see-through. I'm going to use these lovely pigments, which are quite new to me. Very earthy colors. I don't normally work with earthy colors. They're not my to-go, but I'm embracing them. So this is a little bit of a novelty for me. This here is chromium oxide, and this here is burnt sienna. So 2 very earthy colors that are going to give you this result.
Yeah, lovely.
You want to choose colors that are opposite. You don't want to choose two colors that are in the same range. For example, black and white, red, black and white. You want to opposite them with something quite striking like green. You want to make your colors pop. If you make them too even, it's just a little bit more of a subtle effect. This one here in particular is quite earthy, I know. I love the ambers, and as you will see, leopard is my favorite color, leopard print. So I'm always trying to imitate animal skins and animal fur, which is, yeah, one of my favorite things to do. So choose opposite colors. In this case, terracotta and a green, which are going to contrast quite a bit. You've got your mold right in front of you. Put these here. And you've got your cup of A and your cup of B. I don't know if you guys can see, but always label your cups A and B. It's very easy to get them mixed up. I don't blame you if you do, this just happens. All right. So a little bit of B. And when I say a little bit, I really do mean a little bit, because we're just gonna do some detail with the first color. So the same amount of A for the same amount of B. And if people constantly ask me, how do you know, how do you measure? I just do this. I put both cups together and I very gently pour drop by drop until I've got the same amount on both cups. It's really, it's not a trick. This is just common sense, I guess, but you know. Yeah. Right. The first pigment that I'm going to use is this terracotta, and I'm going to apply it into the B cup. Reason being, it's clear. There in that yellowish liquid, it won't look very nice. It just will change my color perception a little bit, but on the clear liquid, it won't. How much? Just a little bit. That's all you need. Just a little bit. Mix it into the B. Mix it thoroughly.
So that color, is that a powder, is it?
It's a powder, right. So it's not a pigment, it's an inclusion. It's not a liquid that will incorporate into your resin. It is a powder that will stay floating. It will stay floating in your resin. So you've got to make very, very sure that it dissolves really well. As you can see, I tip my glass and I try at my cup and I try to see if there's any lumps or anything that I need to really get into, like on the edges and ridges of the cup, until I can see a very smooth and consistent mix. Use the translucency of your cup like this to see if there is any lumps left behind. Do that a couple of times until all those darker spots are gone. So remember, mixing into your B doesn't have a time limit. You can mix here all that you want, all that you need, with absolutely no time limit. It's until you pour into your A, your cup of B, sorry, into your B, your cup of A, that you start counting. And today, given that it's quite a cold day, it is going to be around 40 seconds, I want to say.
Okay.
It's a very small amount of resin, so it is going to take a while to begin the chemical reaction. Don't forget that the chemical reaction is stronger the more volume you have. So the bigger your cup of resin, the faster it is going to cure. On the contrary, these teeny tiny cups of resin take quite a while to cure. So be patient. Grab your cup of tea, anything you need. Right, A goes into B. And when A goes into B, this is a very cool tip. Grab yourselves a clean little mixer, because you don't want to scrape the A cup with this mixer that's already been in the pigmented B. And you also don't want to leave behind too much A in the A cup. Pouring, 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 and scraping that cup, making sure that all of the A goes into the B cup. Otherwise, you're not following your 50-50 ratio. Everything's in there. My cup is totally empty. And I start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
So at what stage do you start to feel that warm up?
I will tell you when it does, but today is quite a cold day, so it might take a little while. Mm-hmm. Today, what we're going to try to do, it's probably like 20 seconds by now. What we want to do is we want to get to a nice honey-like consistency before we pour, because I'm going to make this sort of drizzled effect. It's too liquid right now. Yep. So I keep on mixing it. Though, as you very well say, I'm feeling with my fingers the heat. I've started to feel the heat. It is here. It is present. It'll take another minute, I think, for it to start getting a little bit more viscous. I want it to have the consistency of honey. I don't want it to be too runny, and I also don't want it to get too hard. So you got to get your timing quite right on this. Mix, mix, mix. Feel that cup in your hand. It is getting quite warm, and see the consistency is changing.
Yep.
So I keep on monitoring this. I don't want it to go too hard. Once you start feeling the heat in the cup, it's just a matter of minutes. Look at that consistency, much better. I'm trying to show it. Is this visible? That's better. Look at that consistency. It's almost like caramel because of the color. Not quite. Here yet. I'm giving it a. Once you've got that, and I'm going to do this so I can do that.
Sorry, Maca, we just had an issue with the internet then, but we're back on the air.
I'm going to start pouring anyways. From a little distance, you can see I can drizzle because the consistency of my resin is quite honey-like, quite dense. I am drizzling all over the mold. Don't worry if you don't aim only inside the triangles. What you want here is a very varied effect. And that's it.
Now, Maca, that isn't what I expected you to be doing. I was wondering how you were going to get those model effects. Yeah.
Can you all see the mold? How I've drizzled it like it was chocolate, like it was caramel. My resin's already hardened. See, my cup is, it's already cured in the cup. So I got it to a point where it was really, really dense. I'm not sure if that showed up in the, because of the internet fail, but you can see it went very, very hardened in the cup, and I got it in just in time. It's like a drizzle.
Very good.
So we're gonna wait a little bit until this cures totally before we pour the green. What we're looking for is this kind of effect, right? So the green needs to be poured on top of the brown, of the ochre, only once it has cured, because if we don't wait and let it cure, it will mix, it will bond with the next color, which is not what we want here. We want clear definition between the two.
So now, Maca, you're going to end up with some resin outside of the mold. Mm-hmm. So what do you end up doing with that?
Well, the first thing that I'm going to say about all that resin outside the mold is that you shouldn't really try to pick it now, because look how sticky it is. it'll just make a bigger mess. So instead of trying to clean your mold now, let it sit. Once it is fully cured, picking it is way easier. That's the first.
So is some of the resin outside the mold going to be joined to some of the resin inside the mold?
I don't think so, no.
Okay, so it's either dropped in or it's stayed out.
That's right. And the beauty of this effect is that if you drizzle from a height, you don't really get to control the effect in the end. It's very serendipitous. You got to let it be. So as you can see, I can pick some of these bits now that they are hardening. It just becomes way easier. I'm not going to use them now, but I sure will use them later. I collect all of the residue from my castings, as you can see here. This is what I call frit, which is a term used in very many different techniques like glass casting and ceramics.
Okay.
It's just little bits that are left over from other projects that you just put together. And yeah, I save them all. And then later, for example, we could make a whole mold with lots of frit and clear resin, for example.
Right.
That's another cute technique I could build on later. But yeah, you can all see the color has changed. The consistency has changed. This is now quite well set, and I am ready to mix my other color, which is in this case green. So because I haven't contaminated my cup of A, I will reuse it, which is one of the things I love teaching my students that come to my workshops, is to reuse their cups as much as they can, just so that we are in a better environment. And here comes my cup of B, and I'm going to reuse my cup of A. There we go, 50-50. So once again, pigment goes into B, a generous amount of green, because we are doing at least double the amount of resin, so double the amount of pigment. Mm-hmm. This is called chromium oxide. And you mix. Mix, mix, mix. Can you all see the lamps in this cup?
Yes, we can now. Yep.
Those are the ones we need to make sure that they are very well dissolved. So scrape the side of the cup as much as you can when you are mixing. Get into those crevices, those pesky lines of this plastic cup. It helps so much, yet are so annoying. So mix, mix, mix until you cannot see any more lamps. Mixing is a science. I like to tell people that if they don't know how long to mix for, they should pick the start of a song and finish mixing when the song is over. So, and just, if it's not November Rain, you're good, because that's a very long song.
For American Pie.
Or American Pie, yeah. So choose a normal 2 to 3 minute song and mix. If you don't feel confident with your timing when mixing, but all that you're trying to do is you're trying to see if on the sides there's lots of lamps or streaks or concentrations of pigment that is unmixed. Other than that, we are just vigorously mixing. This is only pigment and B, so again, there is no time constraint here. We're just mixing.
So just while you're mixing them, Maca, just a bit of a shout out to our viewers. Thanks for being on board. And Pete said howdy, so howdy to Pete. If anyone else would like to say hello, tell us where you're from, that'd be great.
Yeah, that'd be cool. All right, look at that. And a homogenic mix, something that looks like a green slime. You can see on the side of the cup, I'm trying to show you guys. No lumps, no streaks, pretty clean. And now I'm ready to mix in my A. A goes into B, B doesn't go into A, right? A goes into B. And I've got my clean mixer here. Remember to scrape the A cup with a clean mixer as much as you can. Get every single last drop of resin out of your cup. Nice. Start again. 1, 2, 3. I wish I knew how to count in Māori. I know a couple of numbers, but yeah, that could have been a good trick for today.
You'll have to practice that for another time.
Yes, I know some random numbers. I don't know the order, but yeah, I guess I can count in Spanish.
Oh, yeah, do it in Spanish. Yeah.
I think we're now like 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
You just sound like you're counting in English, but you've had a few drinks. That's what you sound like.
Yes, I admit it. Right, this cup is starting to get warm in my hand. I think we've hit the 40 seconds. I wasn't counting. That's very naughty of me, but hey, you at home, if you want to do this, and you haven't done multiple types of different resins like I have, make sure you count in your head or it will be a little bit too late. In this case, we don't need the resin to go viscous. We want it to be as liquid as possible. So as soon as I feel that nice heat accumulating in my hand, I am ready to pour. And I'm going to use this camera here. And gently, gently, I am going to fill every mold with resin all the way up to the top. Steady hand, steady pulse. Pick one spot, stick to it. Try not to move around too much. This is what ensures no air bubbles. All the way to the top. I think I've got enough resin for all of them. Very nice. A very nice consistency. It is quite viscous. The reaction's already started, so this shouldn't take very long. Easy does it when you're pouring. Just breathe. You know, think of something nice, relax. Nice consistency. Right. Resin self-settles. So if you feel somehow like you haven't reached a very tight corner or something like that, you can always use a little toothpick. With that toothpick, help the resin go where you want it to go. But otherwise, just leave it.
Now we're looking at what is going to be the back of your star, is that right?
That's right. This is going to be the underside.
Yeah. So
the marks, the nice color goes in the front, the ochre terracotta, that one.
Yeah.
Is in the front, and that one, the green is now covering the back quite even. So it's one of the cool things about resin that you don't really get to say how it's going to end up looking like, unless you really are controlling and you control that. It kind of does what it wants.
Yeah, so now we've got a little weight.
Yes.
That's a cool feature that the star is made up of 7 identical pieces, isn't it?
That's right. That's part of the Māori story, tells the story of 7 sisters that come together to guide you. But
there are 7 stars in that constellation, I believe. And the stars have 7 twinkles, or whatever you call them.
7 points, yeah, which is not a usual, it's not your usual star design, 7 points. I acknowledge that. That's why I made this design specifically for Matariki because it's not just any star. This is the Matariki Star. It's a 7-pointed star. Yeah. Otherwise, we could have just, used any star, but this is not any star. This is the Matariki Star.
No. And while we're waiting, I'll just return the greetings from Christy from Perth and Wendy from Brisbane, who are on board.
Hey, ladies. Thanks for being there. Nice to have you. Everyone can see the difference in color.
It's lightened up.
It's lightened up. And the edges are still a very concentrated bright green. That's because it hasn't cured just yet.
Yeah.
The chemical reaction begins in the center, expands to the edges. So the center is now quite hard. You can see I'm poking it.
Okay, yeah.
Whilst the edges are really, really soft. So it's literally telling us, wait another minute. Let me be. I will be with you in a minute. This is a little trick to show you guys. A little heat lamp.
Okay.
Make my screen go nuts, but I've got this lamp here, which is basically, let me show it here with the phone. It is basically a bathroom bulb, the ones that heat your bathroom.
Yep.
And I will just bathe the mold in some heat, some light heat, just so that it accelerates the process a little bit. You don't want it to be super mega fast and provoke bubbles, air bubbles, or all sorts of things. You just want it to be a little bit hotter. Okay?
Yeah, just warm up the air around it rather than bake it.
You got it. Too much heat and it'll bubble up. Because we can't forget that this plastic here is uses heat to harden. So if there's any oxygen inside, say now small air bubbles, they will expand and they will warp your shape that you were trying to achieve.
Okay.
What I just did there with this cup.
Crikey.
Recycling in this practice is key. You can reuse your cups as many times as you want. Just because the resin cures, and then you can just peel it off.
Okay. Oh, well done.
So this, I chop it up and it becomes frit. Good stuff. And the cup I reuse for my next pour. I know people find this extremely satisfying, so I'll do it again.
Start playing with bubble wrap. Yeah.
So it's cutting off, but yeah, you can remove it all. It's still not properly cured. All of that can be put back into your frit.
Yeah, tell me, Maca, once we get our seven little pieces of our star, how do we join them together?
This is the reason why I chose this project to demo, because I think it's a self-invented technique. I probably have lots of people using it before, but this was a novelty for me, and this is, I guess, what I can show everyone, that I've discovered how to work resin in a very different way.
Yeah. Oh, well, we're all looking forward to that moment. Coming up soon, I dare say.
Coming up soon. So how are these looking to you guys?
Oh, nice and glossy.
And fully cured. There's a little bit of difference in color in just some of them, so I'm going to give them a little bit more time. Yeah, they're a little bit soft. So people ask me when I'm in my classes, how do we know when we are safe to demold? When are we good to take our pieces out of the mold? And I always say, if you flex your mold,
yeah,
and the pieces flex with it, it's not ready. If you flex your mold and your pieces come out of the mold, they literally pop out on their own, that's when you're ready.
Okay.
If you're not ready, put it back down, wait another minute. If it's ready, they will pop out pretty much on their own. Don't forget, we did spray it with silicone. So it's that little lubrication that's going to allow the pieces to come out gently and naturally and not forcefully.
Yeah. Patience is the key. It doesn't matter if you wait a minute longer, but if you do it a bit quicker, that could be detrimental.
Exactly. And the detriment here not only is that your pieces are not coming out beautiful or shapely or whatever, it also means that there's plastic coming into this earth, new plastic that is not desired, that is unwanted, and it's just junk. And we don't want to create more junk.
No, that's not what we're about at all.
That's not what we're about. What we're about is mindfully making bits that will be components to awesome jewelry that we will want to wear or we will want to gift, and that are meaningful and that will add to this world and not take from it.
Adding beauty to the world.
That's right. I'm trying to the resin out of that cup while we took, but it's just caught in there. Anyways, I thought I could show you something really satisfying, which is when that comes out perfectly clean, but it didn't.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's all right. That's okay. Okay. Let's see about the small. Oh, something that I really want to show today that I don't know that I showed last time is that when I'm going to demold, I take my gloves off. Because a lot of times when I'm working, my gloves have pigment on them, and I haven't quite realized it, and I'm just transferring my pigment into the brand new pieces of resin, and it just stains them forever, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So just to avoid that, I'm gonna show you guys. Turn that off. Right. So as I said to you before, when you flex the mold, see, pieces are popping out on their own. That wasn't happening before, was it? Look at that. Everything's coming out. Effortless.
But you've got a big mess there, Maca.
A little bit. Resin is a messy business.
So those bits that are attached to the green, the brown bits,
that's
are
right.
They going to come off easily or what?
Very easily. Just don't forget,
there you go.
This is just plastic and it's very thin. So grab yourselves a pair of scissors, and just cut through the ends. This is when, as jewelers, we find our perfectionist side, and we go ahead and sand every little edge and make sure that it is absolutely perfect for the next stage. If you are not really, or if you don't have the tools to do some filing or some sanding, all you really need is a pair of scissors. Maybe a scalpel. But then again, scalpels are designed to cut through skin. So be very careful with the use of a scalpel, especially around children.
Well, I must admit, this process is a lot easier than I thought it was going to be.
That's good.
Yes.
A little bit demystifying, isn't it? All you need is a good sharp pair of scissors, which I think everyone has got in their workshops. Now, if you've got a bigger mess or lumps that are a bit thicker and you can't cut just with some snips or some scissors, my suggestion to you is to use the wax file. I know a lot of you guys will be familiar with it, but I will show it anyways. So, good old-fashioned wax file that for some scientific reason is designed to expel or repel wax, like it doesn't stick to it. It's really good. something like this you could use to just file off the edges. Gently, gently file off the edges. And then something that I do to every single one of my pieces of resin jewelry before they leave the studio is a little bit of filing and also some sanding. And at this stage, I always like to say that it is not your eyes what guide you, it is actually your feel, your fingertips. Mm-hmm. Will tell you if a piece is a little sharp, if it needs a little bit more filing, and super, super gently. So there's nothing here where you need to apply too much force. The other best friend that I've got is a blade or a scalpel or something. These kinds of things that are very sharp, you could just run them on the edge and make everything really nice and tidy. Don't forget, this is just plastic.
Very good. So I'll invite our viewers, if they've got any questions or comments for you, Maca, to Absolutely. Come forward with those. That'd be great.
Yes, this is a good time for it. So as you can see, that piece is now thoroughly clean.
So before you join them up, you're going to be doing that to every edge?
I already have done it to the other one, so we're going to magically skip to the next.
Here's one I prepared earlier.
Exactly. I just want to show you the difference in tones. So much more concentrated, a lot more of that burnt sienna pigment on this one for a nice brick tone, and that there much lighter, so a lot less pigment.
So will the one you've just done, will that change in color at all anymore, or is that it now?
That's it. That's it. Yeah, I literally used half the pigment I used on the first one, just for some variety, because my idea now was to mix both. We'll see how I go. Right, so moving into the next stage, I'm just going to clean up a little bit so it's a little bit more presentable. Otherwise, we've got 7 points in resin that are already made, and we have to bring them together. How do we bring them together is the part that I believe is a little bit of a novelty. I don't think I invented it, but I do think it's a little bit of a new technique to show everyone. So the stars have a long side and a short side. They're basically composed of each beam of the star or arm of the star is composed of 2 triangles, one small and one large. So the large one, we want it pointing out, and the short one, we want it pointing in. And if you can see.
So you're going to have a bit of fun arranging these now in the pattern that you like.
The ideal, right, the ideal is not to create a new pattern, just to follow the star, leaving a little gap in between. I want to say 4 or 5 millimeters between each beam or arm of the star. I don't know how to call it, leg.
You could call it a twinkle.
Each twinkle, that's very cute. And I'm going to introduce to you guys this new material that I don't think I had used before. I'm trying to make this. Ooh, maybe this one's better. Yeah, maybe that one's better. Clay. Putty. This here is called Claymate. And yes, it is Australian, of course, Claymate. And Claymate is very good for working with resin because it doesn't interfere with the chemical reaction. Other clays will interfere with the chemical reaction. This one won't. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to safely secure each one of these twinkles into position. Just with a little blob. I'm working on top of a silicone mat. Everyone needs to have a little one of those silicone mats that you can buy at the whatever shop at Briscoe's or even at the second hand or the dollar shop or whatever. Just get yourself some of these plastic mats that will help. It just doesn't stick. Resin won't stick to it. So make sure that all of your points or your twinkles are in position. And what brings our attention is more focused on the center, on that shape in between. We want that to be even-ish. We're not perfect. We're not aiming for perfection. Matariki is not a perfect holiday. We are not perfect human beings. So that's good enough for me. All of the points are secured in place. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to block the corners like this. Got it?
Yeah, I'm still wondering where this is all going, but that's really exciting.
Cool. I like that. A little bit of mystery. Playmate is a very cool material that will allow you a little bit more freedom when it comes to creating with resin, because you can make quick walls with it so that your resin doesn't pour out of where you want it to pour. It's a little bit of or you can model things to cast. It's like a impermanent mold that you can just create really easily. Mm-hmm. And I've got this really cute little pusher tool, which I'm just going to use to shape that a little bit more, just for it to have a pleasing shape on the inside, which is where I'm going to pour my resin. Is it still very mysterious to you, Peter?
Oh, I'm getting it now. So that space is actually going to be filled with resin, which is going to join everything.
That's right.
And you've created little dams there to stop it leaking all over your mat.
That's right. So it's like a mosaic in the end.
And then some of those gaps where you're pouring the resin into will be a different size to others, but that's just part of the...
That's part of the imperfections of being handmade.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I could perfect them more. I could run some sort of measurement machine equipment, just to get like a gauge or something, just to get them more even. But in the end, as long as you've got some space, you're good. Don't make it too tight, because the resin really needs to run. It needs to have a channel to run. Otherwise, if it's too tight and you don't give it enough space, it will tend to be sluggish and not flow and leave a little bit of gaps or air bubbles in between. So make sure you give it plenty of space. I want to say a 4 or 5 mil gap in between is plenty.
Yeah.
Right. And now, so we need to choose a color that is quite opposing, that is quite contrasting to what we already have. Otherwise, you won't be able to see the line through it. In the case
and the chances are you won't match the color that's there anyway.
You could try. I mean, if you had a specific measurement in mind, you could.
Yeah.
In the case of this one, I haven't done a very different striking color in the center, which I kind of regret. I think it would have benefited from something a little bit more contrasting. For example, this one that I'm wearing, again, doesn't really have a lot of contrast, but it does have a little bit of shine in that resin.
Yeah.
But something like this one, I used red, and it really pops.
Yeah, it's a matter of whether you want that pop or not. Yeah.
Exactly. Today, I'm going to use the same burnt sienna pigment, but I'm going to use it in a very, very light concentration. So it's going to give me a different color.
Okay.
See, I was almost going to start mixing without putting my gloves back on. Note to self, put your gloves back on. See how there's pigment on my gloves?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's why I didn't really want to use them the time before. But hey, that pigment's already solidified, cured, so it's not going to interfere with anything right now. But in case you need to, by all means, with a little bit of mess and a rag, just wipe your gloves. Don't just throw them away because they have a little bit of pigment. Persevere. Very important to get rid of any dust particles that have fallen into your piece.
Did you want to talk about your blowing technique there? I think people got the idea. Yeah.
Hopefully. Right. A little bit of B and a little bit of A. 50-50, just like we've been doing so far. And a very small amount of this new pigment into B to get that rosy color this time. And mix. Here we are again, mixing, mixing, mixing. Name of the game.
It actually looks as though you go on to fast forward when you do that mixing. That's right.
This is some vigorous mixing. Yeah. Not all pigments need to be vigorously mixed. Let's just say that. Some of them are very, very easy to incorporate. But this one in particular, because it is dust and the dust is really, really fine, I really want to make sure it incorporates nicely so I don't get speckles or, nasty stuff. Right, very well mixed. Step 2, A into B. And I'm going to grab a new stick and make sure that all my A goes into B. No drop of A left behind. That's the name of the game. And start counting. I don't want to count, but yes. I also didn't want to wear an apron today. I'm a rebel.
Jeepers.
Yeah, I just thought either the apron or the brooch, but they weren't working together. So
is this going to be about a minute, do you think?
You know what? It's always very difficult to tell, but in this case, we don't really need the resin to be viscous. We just need it to be incorporated. So we don't need to wait any longer. As long as you start feeling the heat in your cup, you are good to pour.
Okay.
That little cup of resin is feeling quite warm, and before I waste too much time, I'm going to go ahead and pour. Right in the center, you guys, right in the center. You don't want to pour. You don't want to go and travel anywhere with this resin. Firstly, because it is very liquid, and because you're going to make messes. You're going to make a mess. So might as well stick to the center and pour drop by drop until you can see there's enough coverage. Very gently. It's very easy to overdo this. Stick to the center, don't travel with it.
Because we're doing this onto the front as well, aren't we?
Onto the front, that's right. I think that is leveled. When I can see, I make the decision when I can see that all these corners are well full. It's coming up a little bit over the claymate, which is what you want. That's all. This is enough resin to secure the piece, all of the points, all of the sparkles together. And we just let it sit. So we're basically using resin to stick resin. Does that make any sense?
It does. Now, so Maca, I assume you've done that deliberately with the front facing up so that the resin doesn't pick up any of the imperfections from your mat and all the rest if you did it the other way.
That's right. I could have used a cleaner, more perfect mat, but it is the back. I am going to be filing it and I am going to be sanding it, so I don't really care as much for the back. Otherwise, it's quite lovely when it picks up other things and it just tells the story of how you made it and how you're not perfect.
But you don't want that story on the front, though, do you? So
unless you do, and then you do it upside down.
There you go.
Here for everyone. Right, this is very cool to see if we can activate this front camera, how it started to cure from the center.
Okay.
The different color
starts
right in the center, and it's going to start traveling all the way out. But it's going to take a while again, because it isn't a very big volume. It's a very small volume of resin. So the concentration, the biggest concentration right now is here in the center. The chemical reaction starts, and it starts expanding all the way out.
We could turn this into a time lapse later and watch it and fast forward.
I guess, yeah. That's your job, millennial.
Thanks, Maca.
And then again, a cup with a little bit of resin on the bottom that we're going to reuse later. So yeah, whilst we wait for this, if anyone else has got any questions, or if anyone wants to ask me or suggest what they want to see me make for the next demo, this is a really good moment to have a chat.
Indeed. So if you've got any comments or questions, please ask away. Just write them in the comments. That'd be great.
Isn't it gorgeous how it starts expanding?
Mm-hmm.
It kind of makes the star become a star, like it's starting from the center and it's glowing all the way out.
It does. That is amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, today I didn't use any glitter. I normally use, glitter is kind of a language that I speak. But today I thought I'd go more earthy, which is quite unusual for me. But
right.
I'm digging this. It's different. These new pigments are very interesting. Someone suggested them to me, and they said that they've been using them for painting and for ceramics. They're called artist dry ground pigment. So it isn't a resin only specific pigment. This is a pigment used for many different things.
Now, good news, we do have a comment.
Awesome.
And Dorothy says, beautiful. Thank you so much, Dorothy. Just what we wanted to hear. That's great.
Thank you, Dorothy. I did get the proportions right. The center, the ochre is a lot lighter, as you can see. When we used it before, it came out a lot lighter in tone, and so that's more similar to this contrast. A very popular combination of colors I want to add.
Well, it's a bit like camouflage.
Green and pink, for some reason, is a very popular color combination in my work. My earrings and my necklaces that I make out of resin, my links.
Mm-hmm.
Green and pink seems to be a very cool, a very popular combo. This is what's gorgeous about this pigment. Look at the earthy feel. It's almost like it's terrazzo, more like cement, like ceramics than plastic.
Yeah.
It has those really, really light, earthy. I mean, it's like sand, very light, very thin sand inside. It gives you a really nice effect. And this is almost fully cured. If you can see, the color in the center is the same as the color all through, except for that little bit at the very end that is darker.
Now, Wendy has asked a question, Maca.
Yes, Wendy.
She would like to know where you can find the resin and pigments that you are using.
Well, I shall either list them afterwards on the Facebook page or on the comments or something, but it is easy cast. So as the name says it, it is one of the easiest, most friendly resins to use, and it is Australian, so you can find it and just buy it online. It's very easy to get.
Excellent. So just look out for that, Wendy. Thanks, Maca.
Buy yourself a box of Claymate while you're at it, because Claymate is awesome.
Just be careful when you're asking for it, because if you say, can I have a box of clay, mate?
Mate.
You might end up with a box of clay.
Mate. This is it, Claymate. It is such a cool plastiline material. I use it and reuse it in every one of my workshops. When people come to the workshop, I ask them if they can bring their collection of treasures, which literally means everything that they think could become jewelry, or they could take a mold from. And so they bring a whole heap of things: buttons, gems, shells, stones, you name it. But sometimes the pieces that they bring are not perfectly viable for mold making. So I bring out the Claymate and I say to them, model something by hand, because it is as easy as that. Yeah. This is going to be a very simple example of what you can create with this clay. If you think of this little shape here,
yeah,
and you pierce out 2 holes, you've got yourself a button.
Oh, look at that.
And you can make a mold out of this and make your own customized, personalized buttons.
There you go. The opportunities are endless.
Yeah. When that comes out of the mold, pretend this was the mold for it. When it comes out of the mold, I can just squish that back and make something else.
Ah, so it's reusable.
Reuse it as many times as you want. That's why I like it so much. I think we are good, and I'm going to start picking out the Claymate from the little tips, releasing. And because of the way we are working today, there might be some spillage at the back, which is totally okay, because we can work with it. And you peel it off. That's right. That's what I was talking about. In the end, what you're doing is you're creating a core, not only the stripes, but you're creating a back so that the whole star is now resting on something.
Ah,
and
so
then
you actually had that elevated a bit then, did you?
I didn't really. It just resin goes and it flows underneath pieces.
Ah, okay.
It does that. So I kind of take it. I already know that it is going to happen, so I just anticipate it and let it do its thing. As you very well said, it will pick up everything that was there, and it kind of did. It picked up a little bit of bits and pieces. And it also copied the exact finish of the silicone mat, which is a little bit porous. And all of that you can keep working on. Just grabbing a little bigger blade. And this one. And you can start picking out all of this clay from the corners. So it's at this stage, Peter, where as a jeweler, you use all of your expertise with small tools and you start carving away all these imperfections. Gathering all of your Claymate, putting it away for another day, and start cleaning it up. And as I showed you guys before, the file, the wax file, where did I put it? Here. The wax file here becomes really, really handy just to peel off all those nasty edges. So treat your resin with a lot of patience and care. This is a very brittle, soft material, comparable with balsa wood, if anyone's got any experience with balsa wood. Very, very gently. All you need is a little bit of force to clean it up. Not really a lot of elbow grease.
No.
A scalpel can be very good, very clean. If you are confident using a scalpel, it might be your best friend here. Otherwise, the file, a little palette, something to pick, an X-Acto knife, anything that you feel confident using. So there we go. That is our first cured star. And the process from now on is just cleaning it, carving it. I'll give you this one as an example. I filed and perfected all of the ends and the back, which is now quite smooth to the touch.
Okay.
And
I really like that color combination, the one you've got there.
It's subtle. It's not as contrasting as others, but yeah, ideally you choose whatever colors you want to use that look a little bit contrasting, and you go for it. You want to make the back as exciting as the front. Don't forget it. It's a plus. And something that I want to show you guys is right underneath all this. I've got 3 stages of sandpaper stapled to my table.
Okay.
And with a little bit of water, you grab some. So you don't want to use your sandpaper dry. You want to use it wet. Sand. You sand the back until that gives you a result that you love. A little bit of water, keep sanding it. So yeah, I'm not going to sand this whole piece in front of you guys, but you get the idea, right?
Yeah.
Stage 1, coarse. Stage 2 would be medium, and the last one is it's 1200, I think, or 1600. I don't know, one of the two, and that will just give you that final kind of lustrous look. So you can file most of the brown that was inserted in the center, or leave some behind. This is when creative, each person has a different idea of how they want it to look like. But basically, we have made the 7 points all separately. We have put them all together. We have cured some resin in between, and we have made it into a one piece.
And happy Matariki.
And happy Matariki. Let me show you this one that is fully finished. It's got the brooch back at the back, which I've previously made out of bronze and steel, and it clips, and you wear it and you're good to go.
Beautiful. Well done. Thank you so much for taking us through that process, Maca.
You're very welcome.
I'm sure our viewers have enjoyed that. And yeah, I did. I really enjoyed discovering what was going to happen next. So
hopefully, yeah, hopefully it was something different that you hadn't seen before. That was kind of my goal.
Yeah, no, you achieved that goal for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you to Ray, Wendy, Dorothy, Christy and Pete for being on board, and others, and also those watching this in the future. So, Mark, we'll look forward to seeing you again sometime in the future.
Thank you.
And thank you so much again for your great job today.
Yes, thanks to everyone for being with me on this cold Auckland morning in my workshop. Hopefully I get to do more of these videos because I find them really cool. And thank you, Peter, and Warburton's and AJS for the opportunity.
That's great. Thank you very much, Maca.
Thank you.